trust that the Russians will get rid of all of their nuclear weapons. We need to make sure that we don't walk blindly into these treaties. We do need to have a couple of nuclear weapons, and God forbid they will be our last resort, but they're there so we have the respect of other countries, so that other countries they will know that there is consequences. They can't just say, we get rid of all of our nukes and we still have some stockpile. We have to have some form of protection against that. We have to have some form of respect. We have to have some form of dominance for them to be unequal.
All right, for President Carter's team, recently President Carter gave a speech to the American people about the energy crisis, called it the Crisis of Confidence speech, claiming that the American people, the root of the problem was a crisis of their confidence in the government, and asked for them to make further sacrifices for the country in terms of carpooling and not driving as much, lowering the heating costs. What would you say to the critics of that speech that are claiming that President Carter is blaming and asking the American people for sacrifice instead of his own shortcomings as our diplomat?
Part of our oil crisis is inherited. President Ford suffered many of the same issues. It takes time, and unfortunately, American people don't want to hear it takes time to fix things. But if a Carter presidency is not like the candidate Reagan said, "Are you better 4 years from now?" We're not so much worried about that. We're worried about 8 years, 12 years, 20 years, how your kids are going to be. We want to solve problems at the base of the problem. We want to work on our oil industry. We want to work on our reducing our foreign dependence upon oil, and we want to work on lowering our dependence on oil altogether. We want to stop the problem at the base before it becomes a problem, not just for the next president, but the next president, and the next president, and the next president. It's a long, if we keep just running like a hamster wheel in place, we're not going to solve anything. It's about long-term solutions, not about short-term band-aids.
This is for Governor Reagan's team. If we lose the minimum wage, that could potentially mean people will make less than what they do now. How are they going to afford their own health care or these private charter schools that he suggested?
Please. Okay.
If we lose the minimum wage, people could potentially make less than what they do now. How are they going to be able to afford their own health care privately or these private charter schools that he suggested with doing away with the Department of Education?
We don't want to raise taxes or raise minimum wage or lower minimum wage. We want to keep minimum wage where it's at and lower taxes. We want to help inflation and help get oil prices down and allow our Americans to have their heat when they want to and not have to wear a sweater. We want the people to come together, and if they have more money to spend, then they're going to be able to put that in our economy and help our economy overall.
This is for President Carter's team. President Carter said that we need to produce more. So how can we compete with China and Mexico where it's cheaper?
Well, the first step to that is bringing education back and strengthening that in America. That is the reason we made the Department of Education in the first place. It is so that we can educate the next generation so they will be equipped to go out and get those jobs, and we can make more products when they get older and enter the job market. As Governor Reagan suggested, he wants to do away with the Department of Education, which is an institution focused on America's future. And I don't understand why anyone claiming to have America's best interests at heart would want to do away with an institution focused on America's future.
For Governor Reagan's team, just a year ago, Governor Reagan was on record as saying that 80% of pollution is produced by plants and trees. Does he still believe that, or has he come around? Has he come around on that?
I fully believe he has come around, and that is why he was not on this stage a year ago. He has learned a lot in the past year. He has talked to a lot of advisors, and he has come a very long way.
All right, and our final question will be for President Carter's team. President Carter has recently had some success with the situation in the Middle East by brokering a peace deal with Israel and Egypt. Is there any indication that that could transfer over to a peace long-lasting and secure between Israel and Palestine and its other neighbors?
Israel's already proclaimed that this is their goal. It's a situation between Israel and Palestine. Yes, we would be happy to work with peace. Yes, we would be happy to work with both sides. It's dependent upon Israel and it's dependent upon Palestinians to come to that treaty.
One last phase, we have some political commentators, right? Who are going to, well, to tell you what you should think about the debate. Give us just a second. Sit down.
Hello.
Can you hear us from the back? You good? Well, we want to welcome you all to the post-debate commentary. I'm Woody Hartley.
I'm Zach Dowd.
And I'm Michaela.
And we're all from CBS News. So, let's just jump in and get started.
All right. I want to talk about the overall context of this was interesting but not unexpected. That'd be about military use and the economic situation of our country. But I want to start out talking about military and the first question about the Iranian hostage crisis. President Carter responded with, "We don't want to risk these military lives. It's like we don't want to risk our men going in there and dying for no reason." But then at the same time, you got to think what about the citizens' lives that are there for over 300 days. You have to think about what the American people are going to see by this. Do they think that this person, this presidential candidate that doesn't want to risk military lives, but you have to think about the citizens that are there. I think that the citizens of the United States will see that in a negative view for President Carter.
And I wanted to jump in there about how Carter mentioned, we shouldn't put their lives at risk. But what he failed to mention is the rescue attempt that it was a very difficult process, and I understand President Carter's ways, but however, it was a failed rescue attempt. And 3 of the helicopters malfunctioned. The pilot of the 4th that was blinded by a dust storm crashed into the refueling aircraft. And 8 U.S. servicemen were killed in that unsuccessful operation. So, what I asked my panel here is, he says they shouldn't have put their lives at risk, however, they put 8 U.S. servicemen into the ground.
Exactly.
And I also thought it was interesting how they say that they want to minimize armed forces despite the fact that he is knownly criticized for building up the armed forces. So it's kind of more a credibility issue. Which one are you actually doing? And at the same time, do you honestly think that Carter's submerges and involvement in the hostage crisis took away from his ability to campaign and reach the voters?
Yeah, I think it took a big part out of it. He had to focus on that instead of focusing on a lot of things he could have been focusing on for re-election. Also, I want to next talk about him commenting on Reagan's military usage as being too hasty. And this is something that can be seen by a lot of Americans if they remember what happened in California with the People's Park protest. And this was in 1969, and this was when Governor Reagan was governor of California. And 2,200 state National Guardsmen in the California Highway Patrol were called out, and this was called the Bloody Thursday. It was at a campus in California, Berkeley, and it started out that day that I think 2 citizens died and 1 officer was stabbed.